Welcome to Bristol for a big band workshop featuring a young lineup drawn in from all over the country, especially for this occasion. A few of them knew each other already, but before today they'd never played as a band together, so they're going to need a bit of knocking into shape. Now the man to do it, he's an internationally famous soloist on trumpet and flugelhorn. He's led his own pole-winning small groups, pole-winning big band too, and he's graced the trumpet sections of Duke Ellington, Count Basie and Lionel Hampton, amongst others. He's done it all with a great good humor too, as you'll see. No wonder one of the best-selling albums he made was called The Happy Horns of Clark Terry.
Thank you. That little tune we call Blues for Listening, and the word listen is going to be the theme of our workshop this afternoon. I take the word listen because Duke Ellington, my mentor, the gentleman with whom I worked for a number of years, he used to always use this word, listen, listen, listen. Sometimes he would say to us rather vehemently, and he would hit a discard on the piano so as to get our attention, and he would say, listen. And so much so till we'd reach the point where he'd say, hey man, maybe what if this guy thinks that we're deaf or something, you know? So he'd say it so often until we began to really concentrate and wonder what he really meant by listening. Then, after a bit, we began to realize that listening really means something, you know? He called it total listening. When you really listen, when you were aware as a saxophone player, and you were aware of what the trumpets are playing in the background on a piece. If you're a trumpet player and you're aware of what the saxophones are playing and the trombones are aware of what the trumpets and the saxophones are playing in the tune instead of just what they were playing, then you are totally listening. So we're going to start our little demonstration this afternoon on a little thing which we refer to as keeping out the no-nos. We sort of build this on the principle of one picture is equivalent to 1,000 words. So here's what happens. We're going to have the band to play the blues again, and we're going to demonstrate to you something that you should never do, and then we're going to show you what you should do. We're going to demonstrate first the wrong way, so you'll never forget it, and you'll never allow yourself to get involved in sitting there and walking in, or sitting with somebody, or play with somebody, do it the wrong way. And then we'll do it the right way so you'll always remember. So if you play some blues in B flat about here, then we'll show you what we mean. Boom, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, suppose I walk in and sit in with a section, band that's already organized, and I'm accustomed to a nice rhythm section playing good, like this one's playing, but then all of a sudden, the piano player decides that he's not going to pay any attention to what he's supposed to be doing on the bandstand at the time. So if he doesn't do what he's supposed to do, he's going to do something that's going to be stupid, not going to come off right. It's going to make it very, very difficult for the person who's sitting up front or standing up front playing a solo instrument to get involved. So here's what would happen if he would do the no-nos. I don't have to tell you, I don't have to stop and draw a picture for you to show you or to tell you that that was wrong, because whatever it was that I was trying to do, I couldn't possibly do it. And if I were able to do it, you couldn't hear it because he was totally on another wavelength. He wasn't accompanying me at all. He was so totally going for himself. Now, if he were in my corner and he was doing what he's supposed to be doing, is accompanying the soloist, and when he's comping, comp is a short word for accompaniment. And if a person in the jazz idiom is going to accompany a soloist, he's going to comp. He's going to play some sparing, punctual patterns and chords here and there to sort of inspire the soloist. It would be like this. just enough place, enough punctuations there with the chords suggested for me to give vent to my feelings and create my own line. And he doesn't have to suggest to me. Now, bass, another no-no is the bass. Suppose you decide, I'm going to play the bass, but yet you don't want to play bass notes, which is a lot of young players, a lot of old players do the same thing. So you sit in with a group, and the bass player is the kind who says, well, I don't have to, I'm more or less freed from the role of having to play bass notes. Yet he wanted to play bass, and he's a bass player. So this is what would happen if he got involved in the no-nos, the bass player. See, that's kind of disturbing. You can't concentrate. He's more involved in creating a line than the soloist. Yet his duty is to build something under you, something upon which you can build. It's like a base, a basement. That's what it's for, the bottom, something that you can build up on. He has to be underneath. So in order for you to create a good line for yourself, you have to have a good bass line. So here's what would happen if it's done right. Is so important till if you really decided that you wanted to do so, you could ask the piano player to lay out, which we sometimes refer to as strolling. You might even ask the guitar player to stroll. And then on special occasions, you might even ask the drummer to stroll, which leaves the bass player walking the line by himself. And if he walks a good line, you still have the freedom to create, and you still have the feeling, the pulsation that is needed in the bass note. Bass player to pick good notes and to build a good foundation under you. Now, my next no-no would be the guitar player. Everybody. Most guitar players forget that those little round knobs can go that way as well as that way. Most of them like to go that way. Very few of them like to go this way. So it's kind of difficult to play over that. Just to give you an idea, we consulted with a gentleman whom we refer to as the greatest rhythm guitar player in all of jazz's history, and that's Freddie Green, who played with the Count Basie Band ever since Basie had a band, and Basie's gone, and he is still a member of the Count Basie Band, which is still on the road. And he told us a couple of little secrets. He said that, as I mentioned earlier, we've had to create terminology in our dictionary to let people know what it is that we're doing and in order to pass it on to other people. So, for lack of a better terminology, he calls the strokes which he uses a chink and a chank. Chink, chank, chink, chank, chink, chank. This top stroke, the lighter one is a chink, the stronger one is a chank. Chink, chank, chink, chank, chink, chank, chink, chank, chink, chank. Which he does this by eliminating the two lower strings. He says by eliminating the two lower strings on the guitar, you don't hang up the bass player. You don't lock the bass player in and tell him these are the notes you gotta play. So you leave him the freedom to move about a little more freely, and he can choose the notes that he wants to play in his construction of the line, and leaves you the freedom to use your chink, chank, chink, chank, chink, chank, chink, chink. Just play a few basic type things. Chink, bang, bang, yeah. There. I don't think you have to really do too much explaining for you to understand and to feel that there's a much freer position, leaves the soloist in a much freer position when he's not locked in with a ring, ching, 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 instead of a nice chink, 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 leaving the lower strings free so that the bass player would have more freedom to choose his notes. Bing, bong, ding, dong, ding, dong, ding. And he has much freedom to choose any note that he chooses. Now, my favorite no-no of all the no-nos is the drummer. Now, I walk into this club, and there's a beautiful rhythm section there, and they sound good, and they inspire me. I can hardly wait till I finish my meal, because I want to sit in with these cats. But, you know, it's a nice little date that I'm with, and I want to impress her, and I want to make it sound nice and soft and beautiful. So I decided I'm going to play something sort of nice, and I want to play in my mute, nice and soft, and give vent to my feelings in mute-wise, and the drummer doesn't think so. So you can see how difficult it is for one to give vent to his feelings and create in the mute. I don't know what I played. You don't know what I played. Neither does he, and he doesn't care, you know, because he's crash banging. Now, if he's on the same empathy and the wavelength that he should, the right wavelength that he should be, he would think in terms of looking up to see, oh, he's playing in the mute. He's listening. Aha, I know what to do for him. And this is what he would do for me, for playing in the mute. Now, suppose you get involved in a situation where all four of the people in the ensemble that you're going to sit in and play with are people who are really no-no crazy. They're going to indulge themselves in the no-no. So you decide at this particular moment, I want to play a nice muted solo, and the piano player, he doesn't believe me. Guitar player, he doesn't believe me. And bass player, another drummer. And this is what happens when they all play the wrong thing. So you can see how very, very difficult it would be to get anything happening. Now, if you're all going to chip in, zero in on the right wavelength, we could get a nice little swinging thing going.
Elaborate a bit on the different kinds of tonguing and attack used in this sort of music.
The kind of tonguing and attack which is used in jazz? All right. The type of tonguing, we have analyzed many players, and we've asked several if they were aware of what they were doing. Some said yes, and some said no. It just comes out a certain way. It just comes out the right way. But we have done some very, very close scrutinizing of most of the jazz players in ensembles, lead players, soloists, and section players and all. And we find that what they actually indulge in is what we, for lack of a better title, we call it the doodle system. which simply means that they take the vowels A, E, I, O, U, and of course our vocal teachers tell us never to use I. They say use R, A-H instead of I. So we use A, E, R, O, U, and whether you use a D sounding attack or a T sounding attack, you take the vowels, daddle deedle daddle doodle doodle, daddle deedle daddle doodle doodle, daddle deedle daddle doodle doodle. The word D-O-O-D is pronounced, and the L-E is swallowed, doodle, noodle. So that's why we call it the doodle system. And the reason we use the vowels is because, as you know, embouchures are built on a rubber band principle. If you leave a rubber band loose, it goes bang, 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 and you tighten it, bang, 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 bang. You know, so that's the T, deedle, deedle, toddle, do, R-T-2, T-ta-to, ta-tu-T, T-tu-ta, ta-tu-T. So daddle, deedle, daddle, doodle, doodle. That encompasses all the vowels, T-tu-ta. So at one point or another, while you're doing the doodle system, you are in one range or the other, in the T range, the two range, or the ta range. So it encompasses daddle, deedle, daddle, doodle, doodle, daddle, deedle, daddle, doodle, doodle, daddle, deedle, daddle, doodle, doodle. So if you do it a few times, it just becomes a natural thing to you. Just do it a few times. Daddle, deedle, daddle, doodle, doodle, 4. Daddle, deedle, daddle, doodle, doodle, 4. 4. 4. 4. And when you're playing, it actually comes out in the same fashion. And we add a little thing that we sometimes, there again, we talked about earlier, we had to create some terminology for our own dictionary. We expounded on the soft tongue, we call it a body huff, which is very self-explanatory. Extra gusts of air from the abdomen. While you're indulging in the doodle system, doodle, 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 ho! You know, just a little, huh! Another gust of air from the abdomen. Doodle, 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 ho! Doodle, ho! Doodle, ho! Doodle, ho! Doodle, ho! Doodle, ho! These all come from extra gusts of air. And if you listen back to some of your old Ellington records, you'll hear Johnny Hodges and Ben Webster and Harry Carney playing in that fashion. Hoo, low, 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 lee, long, lee, go. Hoo, long, long. And some of those bottom notes are swallowed and ghosted, and with the extra gusts of the air. And sometimes Duke was very much into getting things out of the guys in his band that he wanted, you know. For instance, he knew that Ben Webster, on the end of a phrase, would let a little air out. He'd say, fo, vo, 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 fo, 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 fo. So he liked to hear his whole section do that. So a section would play, and they'd say, lo, vo, 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 fo, 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 fo. And if it didn't sound enough like frog at the end of a phrase, Duke would scream out, give me some air, give me some air, which meant that he wanted to hear a little fo, 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 fo on the end, you know. So there was a terminology, give him some air, which is something that any classical player, if you scream that too, they probably would open the window, you know. We're now going into a period which we refer to as rehearsal techniques. So a lot of the things we've already talked about, and things that we've done, we're going to try to apply some of them in the next few tunes that we're going to do, which will be pretty close together, and we hope will be entertainment for you and informative, and hope that it'll be something that the people in the ensemble will be able to use in future years. And I hope that it's going to be fun. This little tune that we're about to do now is a Hal Crook arrangement of little composition of mine dedicated to the courageous Indians at Wounded Knee, who were so heavily outnumbered and who fought so courageously. And we call this one simply teepee time. It's a very difficult chart, and we had the chance to look at it briefly, but when you hear it, you'll see that these are very competent musicians. In order to be able to play this, they had to be. Okay, it's swift. Okay, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. Hold on. We didn't get past that intro. Remember we discussed this? If you try to do it too loud, it's going to get behind, and it's not going to ever make it. So let's do it as lightly as we can. Hit the notes and give them as much value as you can, but get off of particularly that last one. Everybody should stop on that last one together. Just do the last that one, that note, those two notes. 1, right in tempo. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Yeah, that's it. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, it's the last one. If you cut it off real short, you'll find that it leaves you still buoyant. But if you try to hang on to it, it's going to slurp the whole thing down. Same thing again. Last two notes. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. Yeah, notice that? Crisp. Now let's start to put the whole introduction. Just the harmonies. No rhythm this time. Just the harmony. Introduction. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Can't you tell that each measure you go into, you're getting a little farther and farther in debt? You know, it's like the country store. Owe my soul to the country store. You may never get out of debt that way. So you got to step lively, you know. You know how you walk through the barnyard. You know, you got to be careful. Okay, you might get some on you. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. Leave it light, That's it. That's exactly it. I'll think that same way each time, and you got it made. Rhythm this time. With rhythm. 1. Just the introduction and stop. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. Still hold it. Hold it. I want you to be the judge. Now, do you feel that was honestly played right, or don't you think you were still getting further in debt? Okay. Try it. Try it again till you get out of debt. Okay. But maybe Ian, if you give us a little clock beat all the way through that might help to keep things a little more honest. Clock beats all the way through. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. That's much better. Much better. Much better. Much better. It's the last 2 before the very last one that you slow down on. I don't know why that is. Always those 2. One more time, lightly. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. background. Brass, those syncopated figures, you threw the whole train off the track right there because it went zap right off behind again. And Ian, I think, was pounding pretty good that time. So it's just, it's either you're not really concentrating on the beat, you're not listening to Ian, or you're just haphazardly allowing it to happen, and it shouldn't. You just have to instill the beat within you, and you just have to be determined enough to make it come off, and it has to be that way. Otherwise, you'll get in the habit of playing like that, and it'll follow you all the rest of your life, you know. So you don't want that to happen. You know yourself. You admit it. You know it's going off the track. You know, it's going downhill, and you don't want it to happen that way. And I know you can keep it up. All you have to do is just play it a little bit lighter. Even before we get to letter G, if we're gonna run into that kind of problem before we get to letter G, imagine what letter G is gonna be like when we get to that. Okay, so let's go back to the tenor solo, the second chorus where the trombones come in. Bones come in as lightly as you possibly can. This is only loud. That's the only loud thing in the whole thing. Tenor solo, second chorus. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. You got to count and you got to concentrate. He may do that to you one day. He may stick half of your solo. Okay, let's do it one more time. We're going to give you a chance to count this time, so you make sure you count. 12, 12, 8, and 12. Okay, second chorus. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 1. I never heard anybody play that part that well the first time ever. And I played this chart 10,000 times. Fantastic. That's the truth, man. That's the truth.
Clark, thanks very much for coming all this way to do this. Did anybody help you as a young musician the same way you're helping young players now?
Not really. This is why I'm so very much involved in this particular business. When I was a kid, we used to ask the older guys questions, and they would give us wrong answers. I asked an old gentleman once in St. Louis how to improve my tone in the lower register, and he said, "Son, you grit your teeth and you wiggle your left ear, and that'll do it." And I'm sure he went back to his colleagues and said, "Well, I got rid of another one." Because I went home and practiced that. Of course, got to the place where I could do the trick. I could grit my teeth and wiggle my left ear, but it didn't help my tone in the lower register at all.
So things were as bad as that. They really were.
Yeah, they were really bad. You might remember some of the old timers used to play when they put a kerchief or a towel over their fingers so nobody could see their secret type of fingering that they thought they were using, you know.
Yeah.
How much secrets could you have with 3 pumps?
What should the philosophy be of the soloist who stands up to take a solo? Does he have to bear in mind the overall structure of how the piece is going to come across, or is he going to go for it and try and make a name for himself in the 32 bars he's given?
This is the one thing that's very, very important is discipline. He has to be disciplined to the point where he's going to pay respect to the tune. Otherwise, you're going to come up with a lot of funny time music, which we've already had enough of. Anyhow, you know, people who have total disrespect for form and discipline and structure, you know. And I think I'm a firm believer in discipline, form, and structure and so forth. If a person is studious enough and thinks enough of a tune to sit down and compose it and write it the way he wants it to be written, if you're going to play his tune, play his tune. Otherwise, play something else, you know.
Yeah.
It's nice to of course, to improvise on it and to, like years ago, before the guys got involved in improvisation through the medium of chord progressions, they would play the theme, and then they would use the theme as a guy wire to superimpose a melody against, you know, using the theme as a guy wire. That's okay, but when you totally disregard whatever tune you're supposed to be playing and go for yourself, then why start with that tune in the beginning? That's you should announce in the beginning. And now I'm going to crucify Stardust. Let's do a Big Bad Blues. Big Bad Blues. Beat up, screwed up, beat. Remember, way down in the stands the first time. Beat up. A 1, Big Bad. 1, 2. Uh-oh. Okay. Do beat up, beat. Remember on the end, the last time, Nigel? Nigel and I have the beat up until the second and third time. Okay. Big Bad, beat up. Count 7 measures, don't forget. A 1, 2, a 1, 2, a 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold it. Ian, you can help make this like a beautiful painting. Right up at the first part of way down. Whatever your loudest thing that you are, come down to about 10 points, you know.
We're going to fill those 2 bars, yeah?
Yeah, fill them up. Okay, from the top again. That was a good feel. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Even softer. Fill it up. I'm not gonna let you get away with that here. 4 measures and you're right on the floor. Okay? All right, everything was swinging beautifully right at that point. One more time, that was good. Only thing I'd like you to do is about when you're on the soft part, play right up into the stands, like, you know. That's an effect that Jimmy Lunceford used to do years ago. He used to play into the stands and into the floor, and then when they would come up, it would make a great effect. And it makes a beautiful effect like that. So when you make that change, it's very, very musical. You won't forget me this time, are you? I might. You might? No, that'd be good. A 1, a 2, a 1, 2, a 1, 2, 3.